Hello, YouTube. I want to do a quick video describing how the pragmatist conception of truth overcomes presuppositionalism, and specifically through the variety of questions that Sci Ten Bruggencate touches on, because I think it becomes remarkably easy to answer these questions. Um, Once you adopt something like a pragmatic theory of truth. So, um, first question, and these might be a little scattershot because I'm just doing them from memory. I was thinking about going through and taking like clips of him asking the questions and then responding that way, but I decided that's just way too much effort to address something as facile as this. So, what can you know and how can you know it? Well, this is the first question. Well, I can know that I exist for certain. I can know that I have something called experience for certain. No, there's no problem there, right? So then the question that he posed to me after that was, or in a comment section, was, could somebody be controlling your mind from the outside? Well, from the pragmatist vantage point, the answer is no, or without you knowing it. That's the key term. From the pragmatist conception, the answer is no. In fact, this would be something of a contradiction in terms, because, well, first of all, it's an obvious contradiction to say, to state the proposition, somebody is controlling my mind from the outside without me knowing it, right? Obviously, if I'm stating it, then I have knowledge of this, right? So it's a reductio ad, the actual proposition becomes a reductio ad absurdum. But to say it is not true that somebody is controlling my mind from the outside without me knowing it, well, the only way that the model or the proposition that somebody is controlling my mind from the outside becomes useful is if I know it, and therefore I can do something about it, right? And therefore I can discover some kind of way out. Otherwise, there simply is no utility to the idea that somebody is controlling my mind from the outside. To put that term, or to put that idea into practice, would probably result in me being committed to a mental institution, right? Somebody out there is controlling me, and I can't do anything about it, and it doesn't lead you anywhere, right? And of all the things that truth could be, one thing that it certainly isn't is a dead end, right? This is I think the underlying crux of my pragmatist conception. The more I've been thinking about this in the past couple days, truth is not a dead end. Truth is something that leads somewhere. Um, so so yeah, you obviously it makes no sense to propose that somebody is controlling my mind from the outside or something like that. Um, which is sufficient to just do away with it. So logic, right? How about that one? Is the law of non-contradiction absolute? He likes to ask. First of all, I would love to know precisely what it means when he claims that something is absolute. Um, it seems like he uses the terms absolute knowledge, absolute certainty, and absolute truth interchangeably, which they're not at all interchangeable. Um, Certainty, for instance, is basically just an attitude towards a proposition. Um, it's it's no more than that, and it's actually not that interesting, right? So people claim to have absolute certainty about all sorts of things. Sai claims to have absolute certainty um, about God reveals it such that I can be certain, as one of his go-to lines. Um, but Nietzsche made the following line about faith, made the following statement about faith, and I would say this applies to certainty as well. Nietzsche says that a casual stroll around a lunatic asylum shows you that faith proves nothing. And I would say the exact same thing about certainty, and especially certainty revealed from God, right? Like the madman is perfectly content to say that they have certain revealed truth from God. It doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't prove anything. It's not that great, and it doesn't. It's just not that interesting. Absolute knowledge, on the other hand, the only context within which I know that term appears and is somewhat fleshed out is in Hegel. I don't think that that's what Psi means. I don't think he even knows who Hegel was. So I'm not sure what. I mean, one thing that I'll say about absolute knowledge is that knowledge is justified true belief. So in order to have absolute knowledge, it's not just that this thing is true absolutely, but you have to be able to justify it absolutely, right? Justification is a part of knowledge. So you have to be able to convince anybody. You have to be able to demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that the claim is true in order for something to be absolute knowledge in any sort of classical sense. So Psi doesn't have absolute knowledge of anything. He doesn't even attempt to demonstrate his position. So that's just clear. Like it doesn't make sense for him to say absolute knowledge. Absolute truth, on the other hand, is for me, right, from a pragmatist conception of truth, it's literally gibberish to say absolute truth. There is no such concept, right? Those two words don't belong together. They don't make sense together, and they don't get you anywhere. So, in some way, the question, do you have absolute truth, right? Well, it seems to me that you need to actually, in order to even approach answering the question, you need to provide some kind of ontology of absolute truth. That is, you need to describe what the hell you mean when you say, I have absolute truth. It's not sufficient to just ask the question. To just ask a question, let me put it this way, to simply just ask a question, it assumes that we both know what the question means. But I think if anybody watching this video really stops and thinks about it, they won't have any conception of what's entailed in absolute truth. I know I don't think Psi could break down the ontology of absolute truth either. So there simply is just no such thing. It's a meaningless question. So, are the laws of logic absolute? And I would say that, specifically, usually we're talking about non-contradiction, and I would say that, yeah, I'd say that non-contradiction is absolute. Now, why do I say that? Well, insofar as the word absolute makes sense, I'd say that the laws of logic are absolute. Now, why do I say that? Because in order to produce models of the world, you need to be able to discern, right? You need to be able to say, this works, this doesn't work, and etc. You need to be able to make truth claims at all, right? And it seems to me that there's this idea called the principle of explosion, which is that if you allow for one contradiction in logic, then on the basis of that contradiction, you can prove anything to be true. So if one contradiction exists, then all propositions are true. So therefore, you can't discern anything. So the very act of producing models through which to interact with reality, therefore, implies as a necessity non-contradiction. And as Aristotle knew, even the fact that we're signifying, right, even the fact that we're talking, demonstrates non-contradiction to be absolutely true. Or it demonstrates that we need this idea, right? Put it that way. So then, I remember seeing someone someone say, no, non-contradiction is something that we produce or something like that. And Sai's response was, well, in the absence of minds, is it possible that the universe could exist and not exist at the same time? I don't. I mean, this is again gibberish. It's not meaningful language. When we talk about the universe in the absence of minds, right? If we talk about something like the Big Bang Theory, we're obviously not interacting with the universe in the absence of minds, right? What we're interacting with is we're interacting with a model of the universe that we have constructed, and that we are continuing to construct, right? And that model works, and therefore we declare it to be true. But it doesn't make sense to talk about the universe independent of all models, right? That there is no language in that sphere, right? So because there are no models, language can't point to it, right? It's not within the system of language. So it's literally just gibberish to talk about the universe in the absence of minds, or to talk about anything in the absence of minds. The best we can do is to create a model of the thing that doesn't include a mind, and interact with that. And that's sort of fine. We do that all the time, and I'm all for that, right? Like, yay, cosmology. But so then I feel like there was one more that I wanted to touch on. Well, how do you know that? How do you know, like, so it comes down to this repeated game of how do you know that? How do you know this? How do you know that? Well, it's, again, all of this only matters, or it only phases you if you feel like your knowledge needs some kind of theoretical foundation, as it would in something like a correspondence theory of truth. The fact of the matter is that the very fact that we use concepts like mathematics, and the very fact that we use concepts like logic in the real world, is sufficient to say that they're true, right? Because the theoretical is predicated on the practical rather than the other way around. So Sai's evidence that we all know that God exists is that you need some theoretical foundation in order to justify using mathematics, which entails God. So therefore, when you use mathematics to balance your checkbook or something, you're implying the existence of God. And he has it exactly backwards. The theoretical dimension emerges from the practical, not the other way around. When you use your checkbook, you are not implying some theoretical foundation. You're simply using mathematics to balance your checkbook. So any theory about mathematics follows from that. That's what the theory is grounded on, not the other way around. So it virtually gets around the entire apologetic. He also talks about morality. I'm going to leave that to one side, because I think it's a facile, not that interesting claim, and it doesn't really demonstrate anything. So yeah, as far as I'm aware, that's pretty much Sai's entire script. And in every single case, you can pretty much say, yeah, no, I am absolutely certain. I am absolutely certain that logic works. I am absolutely certain that mathematics works. I don't need some theoretical foundation to ground that, right? It's sort of, I think it's a mistake in the history of philosophy that so many people have tried to ground the practical in the theoretical rather than the other way around. Everything starts to look confusing when you ground the theoretical in the practical. Brains, that's one more that he threw at somebody, and I haven't seen him use this one that much. But I've seen other apologists use this, right? So how is it that we can even think if our brains are just chemical reactions that emerge from evolution or something like that? And one way to think of this is to think of it to reverse it, right? So the way Sai wants to say it is that for the atheist, mind must reduce to brain, right? But I think I would reverse this, right? Because I think if you try to say mind reduces to brain, things look a little weird and a little funky. I think I would reverse this and say, no, brain reduces to mind, right? It's the fact is we have something like the anthropic principle working in the philosophy of mind. The fact that I am thinking in a reductionist framework means that there is some corresponding reaction to within the brain. Now, the chemical model of the brain is a model, right? It's a paradigm. It's a construction that we interact with. So the very fact that I'm thinking means that this hunk of meat must have some corresponding process to it. It's not that how could a hunk of meat produce thoughts, right? This is, again, privileging the theoretical over the practical. No, we know that there are thoughts, right? That's the starting point, not that this is some organ, right? The thought is the starting point, not the mass, right? So yeah, that might not be totally clear. Please let me know in the comments if it is or isn't. This video is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to cut it here. If anybody has any further of Sai's questions, I would love to address them from a pragmatist standpoint. If anybody has a rebuttal, I have a few people have left a handful of comments objecting to the pragmatist theory of truth. And I'd love to deal with them in another video. I just don't think I have enough comments yet to make a real substantive video that can function as something like an FAQ. So if you have objections, please post them, and I would be perfectly happy to deal with them in one way or another. And yeah, hopefully the next time Sai gets the nuts to get on the internet, I'd love to see where he would go, because I don't think that his apologetic makes sense anymore once you put it into this framework. In fact, I think that this is the most devastating rebuttal that you can possibly generate to his framework, to his apologetic framework. So please let me know what you think. Comment, subscribe, all of this, and tell me why I'm wrong and why I'm a horrible person who's some immoral, relativist or something like that. Whatever philosophical slanders you want to throw at me, go for it. Have a good day, guys.